Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I was just trying to get a little feedback. That's all. Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice for the third time. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. And again, as I said on Friday, congratulations to soon to be Judge Lena Taylor. Um, well deserved, and it should be as well. It should be a pretty good fix for mix. What is it? Fit? That's the word I want to use. So the loss in the legislature will, it's kind of balanced by what the judiciary gains by getting Lena. Let me do this. Someone asked me the question. It's amazing how, I guess, with the internet, how things can travel. And we there was a bit of history made last week. The National Baptist Joint Board session. This, I think, was the second time that these four Baptist conventions were able to come together. You had Dr. David Peoples. He's the Progressive National Baptist Convention president. You have Dr. Anthony Sharp, who is National Missionary Baptist Church A president, Dr. Jerry Young, NBC, USA, National Baptist Convention, USA Convention, the convention we're part of, and then Dr. Samuel C. Tolbert, Jr., National Baptist Convention of America. So they came together. This is, when I say that it's unusual, that we do this, you need to understand just the nature of being Baptist. Baptists are basically is the autonomy of the local church. So when we start talking about coming together for conventions or organizing, because there is no national hierarchy when it comes to direct control of the church, unlike other conventions, other faiths. The Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, again, has a bishop who assigns pastors to churches. I know the African Methodist Episcopal Church, same thing. Churches of God in Christ, same thing, where there's an overarching hierarchy or structure. We do not have that as Baptists. So organizing Baptists is like trying to bring trying to organize cats. Everybody has their own sense, and because I think, and there's some better Baptists out there than me. Certainly, the differentiation is one of the rights of the church, which is baptism. That Baptists believe in baptism by immersion. There are other people who might sprinkle, might anoint you. There's some religious groups where you're Christian as a baby. Like, for example, you are Christian as a baby, as Christian, that's the word, as a baby in the Catholic Church, and then you will then do your confirmation when you get 12, 13. I think the Lutheran Church works that way. Baptist Church, we deal with something a little bit differently in terms of how people can become members of the fellowship. It's called the age of accountability, and so, literally, an 8-year-old could come up and say, "I want to be baptized," but really 12, 13, where you have a more of a sense of what commitment you're making when you join the Baptist Church. So there was a rumor, Dr. Gina Stewart, one of the great preachers in this country, was slated to speak. I think she was at the Tuesday session or the Monday session, and there was a rumor. And my pastor, who just happened to attend this particular joint board meeting, came back and really said that the rumors were false. There was not, certainly at the leadership level, there was not boycotting of Dr. Stewart because she was a woman. There was a conflict with Dr. Young, who was president of National Baptist Convention USA. He had another meeting at that time, and so there was just a conflict in terms of his schedule that day, because, as my understanding, they all were having their board meetings, their midwinter board meetings at the same time, and so obviously they had to deal with convention business, and then they dealt with the joint sessions. But the rumor got back here that there were ministers who were boycotting Gina Stewart, And if in fact you're that small-minded, you missed a great message. Because let me do a Michelle. When I say that woman walked the floor, she literally did. And I'm one of these people who just believe in the prophecy of the prophet Joel. He said, where the Lord will pour out his spirit on all flesh. And this idea that there are people out there who are against women and clergy and women as pastors. I just think that that's just outdated thinking and is sexist and misogynistic. And here's the deal, and I can say this to some of my preach brethren, that in many instances, many of the sisters are better academically prepared to serve in those leadership roles than some men. And you know, one of the real fascinating things is that some of the greatest opposition to women in leadership as it relates to being a pastor of a church comes from women. That there are a lot of women who just do not see or can envision that a woman would ever be a pastor of a church. And so again, I think this is just Keith. I think that's outdated thinking. We have to look at one of the interesting statistics came out in terms of polling that right now one of the largest groups in this country when it comes to religion are people who are non-affiliated. Like 28% of the population is non-affiliated, which means that they're not part of any religious group, and that trend is growing. So there are challenges that the church has. Look, and people were saying with COVID, mainline churches were losing members prior to COVID because many of their members were aging, and what happens is that then you have where now you have this great generational divide. My understanding is that they even had a workshop, a session there to deal with that particular challenge, and so. You hear it a lot. I don't think that the message changes. I do think that the method changes. And this younger generation will not necessarily do church the same way as the older folks. But then it could be argued that our generation was different than the generation before us as we did church. And so I just think, but these institutions that serve primarily, and again, I'm talking about now the Black church. It's significant. I think that the Black church tends to be more conservative on certain issues. Certainly, when it comes to the issue, obviously, of gender, in terms of women in leadership roles and women fully being recognized as clergy. I also think that there are issues now around marriage and what constitutes marriage and where the church is on that. And in a lesser extent, maybe not so much the issue of abortion. That is for conservative thinking people. They're pretty emphatic in terms of their views on abortions, which is probably going against these other cultural things that we're seeing. For example, this whole idea of what marriage is and what marriage should look like. There are people who are arguing that same-sex marriage might be a threat to traditional marriage. I don't see that linkage. I think that, and clearly, when we understand what marriage is, all right, marriage today, we're not talking about marriage during the time of Jesus. We're talking about marriage today. Is a contract between two individuals. And there's two things that marriage will deal with: progeny, children, and property, right? Those are the two things that when you get married. That's why I tell people you can say you live together, you can live together. But it's not the same as being married, because with marriage comes certain legal obligations, certain legal rights that you enjoy because you're married. Issues of inheritance. And again, if you compare marriage today to marriage during the time of Jesus, women had no power. Women were not recognized fully as human. And so women could not inherit property, for example. Marriage is very different now because in the state of Wisconsin, we do 50-50, right? This is a community property state, that anything that's derived in that marriage or because of that marriage during that time of marriage means that that is 50%, right? Is 50-50. And for men who were long in the position of having financial power over women, that that 50% is very different, because women, look, right now there are more women in college than men. There are more women in college than men. Okay. And again, my wife hates to hear me say it. I do it at nauseum, where I talk about the world changed in 1960 with the introduction of the pill, because what the pill did and other forms of contraception, it allowed particularly women more of an opportunity to exercise control over their bodies and when they got pregnant. Because pregnancy, again, I worked in an environment before I retired where 80% of the workforce was female. Our number one medical issue was pregnancy, right? And then it's women who still are considered, or our society believes should be, the primary caregiver when it comes to kids. And so it's been very difficult. It is. So when you hear me, a lot of times where I'm out and I'm understanding, I think, the plight of women, particularly Black women, in terms of the level of responsibility that they have to assume for a lot of different reasons, good, bad, or indifferent. I think that's so. Again, to get back, that was a rumor. That wasn't the case in Memphis. There was not a boycott of Dr. Gina Stewart. Now, could have been some dudes who didn't show up for it. That's fine. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe like this. If you are going to, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I believe marriage, people talk about, I look at the thing where the church for New Year's turned the church into a lounge, to a club. And it's cool with that. If you into preaching and you believe in God, just like when they asked that black, the judge or whoever they made, what's a woman? And she's a woman. And she can't define the definition of a woman. A transgender cannot be a woman. A transgender is a man. The only way you could be a woman, man, is you have to be able to make babies. So a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot of people is just going for it. A pig is a dog and a dog is a pig. That's not true. I don't care what nobody say. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's all I got to say.
Why is that an issue? Oh, hung up on me. 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Yeah, I do a little reading on this, and I guess this had kind of been brought to my attention when I worked for Planned Parenthood, and then we began to find out how there's a certain fluidity in gender, and certainly how people identify themselves in terms of gender. Trans folks, just real simplistically, are people who believe that they were born a certain recognized gender, but emotionally in other ways they do not feel like they're that gender. Now, whether I agree with that or not, I don't know, because I'm not inside that person's mind, body, and soul. I don't know what that experience is. But obviously, medicine now, in terms of medical practices, are looking at this as an issue. I think it's hard for anyone who is not in that situation to kind of appreciate what those folks are going through in that situation. Um, and I understand we all have very deep feelings, and our feelings are good. But I'm just saying, for me to say what another person can or cannot do with their bodies or how they're feeling with their body, I would push back if anybody would try to tell me, for example, what I can or should do with my body. So I think that that's what it comes down to. But I know people have very strong feelings about it. And I mean, what can you do? Yes, sir.
I just want to do a Keith. So what about people with just feelings, period, that don't think they're a different gender? What about people that have feelings and have their emotional imbalances that we just say get over it, or you're just this or you're that? But in a certain, I'm just saying, feelings are feelings, emotions are emotions. Some people feel like the world is doing them wrong. So, but we look at them and say they're extra or they're just in their feelings. But what makes a certain group of people their feelings more important than anybody else's?
I don't know if it's their feelings that I'm saying is important. What I'm saying is
They
that
say they don't feel like what they were born.
yeah, but all I'm saying is I don't know,
I'm not talking about them now. I'm just talking about everybody else.
but I don't even know when other people are going through what they're going through. But there's probably some things that I could probably identify with. I could identify with certain feelings of inadequacy when it comes to masculinity. I can identify with that because I think that from time to time men might deal with that. But I don't know what it feels like to be born biologically a male, but other than that, I'm female. I couldn't even.
Well, I'm just on the psychological aspects. Even though you can seem to identify, you can't totally identify. So how do we get to judge everybody else but a certain group? That's all I'm on. And I'm not judging them. I'm talking about the other folks that get judged. That, if that's not what I'm on, I gotta, something gotta be wrong with my thought process.
I'm thinking
that's what we do in America. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think we do that. I think you see that when it happens to trans people. Right. There are people out there who I don't believe in it, but whether you believe in it, I love something.
Well, once again, I'm trying to get away from the gender identity piece and just say, what about people that have the same psychological thought process or feelings or emotional imbalance? But then when it comes to these certain group, the alphabet group, as they call it sometimes, just respectfully, because I didn't want to say all the letters, just, that's more important than the guy that has feelings that's walking up and down the street talking.
No, I think they're all equally as important.
Okay. That's all I was
getting. I mean,
but we don't treat it like that.
Well, some don't.
Majority of the world doesn't.
And then maybe so those folks don't have the problem. Maybe the world does.
Hey, man, Lord, that boy, he a genius, too.
You're listening to Community Voice. We're up on the break. Call I see you. I'm going to grab you right after the break. We'll be right back.
Community Voice on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM.
Okay.
The double up.
Welcome back to Community Voice. Y'all finished talking about me in front of me?
He's sitting right there. No, not yet.
You want me to leave the room so you really can
No.
talk?
I'm really talking. I like it better face up.
I'm sitting right here. He's talking about, like talking about me in the fifth person.
Let's go mercenary.
Him over there.
Let's go mercenary.
Him over there.
Yeah.
Good. Again.
Him downstairs. No, I'm good right
Him
here.
downstairs.
I'm good right here.
Welcome to the program. Oh my God. Refer to me like my mama do that one over there. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good, I guess.
Well, now, if you guess and can't nobody else, I have no comment on that. I'm doing excellent and great things are happening. And I still have to tell people, when I tell them that we live in an exciting time right about now, it is so the truth. And I hope we take advantage of it. We get out and vote. We get intelligent. And we know that there are all kind of obstacles in the Black neighborhood and in the Black race that hold us back, including ourselves.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
Say
I'm
it
just
again.
saying. I said there are all kind of obstacles in our way, including ourselves. Sometimes we get in our way.
Right.
And we need to work better as a community. We have a dysfunctional society because we have dysfunctional families. That makes sense? But anyway, I did go to the brainstorming meeting and it was excellent. Beautiful turnout, a lot of good information. And you know something? When you say you want to help someone, we need to stop creating silos and categories. It's going to take all of us. When I say all of us that want the same thing, we want our democracy. We want fairness. And whoever that candidate is that represents that, that's who we need to vote for. And we need to stop separating ourselves. If we only 13% of the population, I've been hearing that percentage ever since I was 16. When is it going to change?
It probably won't. It probably won't.
I beg your pardon?
It probably won't. Not noticeably. I don't think you'll see. I think America if you're just asking, America right now is at zero population growth, which means that pretty much where these groups are, there's some groups who are growing fast, obviously. Hispanics are growing faster, but when you look at it, we're kind of at zero. So that 13% has been pretty consistent with just the birthing trends in the country.
He's having all kind of babies, and so what happened?
But you also have people dying. One of the interesting things, and I haven't looked at this in a while. I was doing a research paper, and I went in and I was looking at Milwaukee County, and it was and this is a few years back. But if you had 15,000 births, you had 15,000 deaths. That number was consistent. So with it seemed the equal number of people dying with the equal number of people being born. That's what they mean by zero population growth, right? That it's not growing, we're not losing, we're just staying where we are. So we'll be at 13%.
Okay, and with the many people that died from COVID, I'm sure that affected a lot of groups.
Yeah, COVID threw that off in terms of the number of people dying. And then we didn't see the baby boom that people thought was going to happen from COVID because of the lockdown. We didn't really see that bump.
Yeah, but I'm saying to the people, listen, when I hear about the stars and who they're voting for, that has no effect on who I'm going to vote for. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. It's not going to make me dislike them or like them. And you have a cohort that likes to call in and keep pumping up Trump. And I like to know, now I have friends that are Republicans because of financial reasons. But now you have to get off of that for financial reasons and look at the character of who you're putting in office. and look at his expectations of what he's going to do. He's already tainted our Supreme Court. But those people were tainted and boneless and have no backbone, because if you put me in office, I'm not going to do your bidding for wrongness, okay? Because you put me there. But then everybody just said, well, they're threatening my mama, my wife, my kids, my this, my that. Don't get into the public arena if you can't handle the pressure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I'm down with people threatening my family. You know, I mean, that I think the ideal is that we should be able to disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh, but we passed that now, Pete.
But that threat, but people threatening folks have been going on for years. It's the I'm running, not my family.
Okay.
And so maybe I think a lot of people believe that family should be off limits. Now, there's some folks who, as Keon describes them, and Charlie Murphy describes them, they're just habitual line steppers, right? It doesn't matter. They don't stop at that. What was it? Was it the Westbrook Church that would go to funerals of veterans, not veterans, of people who were killed in the war, and they would be out protesting homosexuality at this funeral, which had nothing to do with anything. So people are not always respectful of boundaries. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. And you have people who will shoot up a funeral. There are people out there that just don't respect boundaries, and that's a problem.
Okay, and I guess that once again, you have a lot of people with mental illness. Okay. And so when you suggest someone is hurting someone that you like or that you're infatuated with, they'll go do them harm. And he knows that he's aiming them in that direction. And they don't mind dying for him. I don't understand that devotion, but it is what it is. So my only thing is, we have to stick together. We have to do what's right. Stop jumping on the bandwagon of somebody that don't like you and vividly show that.
I saw a poll, and it kind of jumped out at me because it showed Trump receiving about 28% of the black vote, which is very interesting because I think he received 6% of the black vote in 2016, and it bumped up to 8% in 2020. And someone had just sent me an article where they were in Michigan, and there are black people out there who are just not, and I hate to use this term, but I think this is what it comes down to, just not feeling Joe Biden for a lot of different reasons.
Something. I don't something. I don't know what a lot of different reasons are. But our economy is not. I can't help because the guy on the corner is selling his milk and bread and meat at this high price, okay? But for the most part, he's doing all that he can to maintain our democracy and to help as many places as he possibly can. What is Donald Trump doing? But mouth reading and telling you what he's going to do when he gets in office.
But just like that, there are people who are going to vote for Biden because he's not Trump. There are going to be people who are going to vote for Trump because he's not Biden.
And you know something? The stupidity of it is this. Do I want my foot or do I want your foot up my butt?
Yeah, but here, and this is, Keon was kind of talking about this a little. This is the danger in feelings. And look, I say the danger in feelings, but I understand that politics really is a person's perception. For some folks, it really is their feelings, their beliefs. And so, if you're just looking at the numbers, Joe Biden has been very good for America. But I don't think people look at the numbers. They're more looking at, he's an older guy, even though the guy who probably be running against him is only 3 years younger than him, which also makes him old. So, I mean, but I understand perception. But if that number is correct in terms of 28%, here's the real issue. I'm not so much worried about black people going to vote for Trump because I just don't see a significant number of black people doing that. I'm concerned about black people staying at home and
Thank
sitting
you.
it out. That's the real threat. That, because I'm not feeling Trump and I'm not feeling Biden. At some point, you got to make an adult decision. And
That's right. But you have a lot of whites saying the same thing.
Right.
They're just not going to vote.
So it depends on who those white people would be more apt to vote for. If those white folks, and again, I'm just using this as a demographic, right? And it's a used demographic in politics. If you have white folks who are not going to show up to vote, who would vote for Trump, that's an issue. And so Trump has been saying to his hardcore people when they were in Iowa and they were dealing with that brutal cold, he said, even if you come out and die, coming out the caucus for me, it'll be worth it. Really?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, oh no, this dude don't care. I mean, it was when he went to, was it Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and they didn't want people to wear masks. Herman Cain got sick and ended up dying from COVID. So when people are kind of where they are now, we're really early in the process. This would be more concerning. You have to look at those numbers going up to what happens post-convention in July, and what those numbers will look like in July. But I mean, people out saying it. I don't know. I made a comment that
don't let the polls scare you about what people are dictating about the polls. Go do what you're going to do.
You got to do that, but for the people who are in the business, those numbers mean something. One of the things that happened in 2016 was no one accounted for the people who had not participated in 2012 showing up to vote in 2016. And those people who set out 2012 were people who had been more supportive of a Donald Trump. Those people showed up in 2016. So, but then we knew the margin of victory had everything to do with the people who didn't show up. So in the state in Milwaukee, 40,000 people who voted in 2012 did not vote in 2016. The margin of victory for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton in 2016 was 22,000 votes. So it's the people who stayed at home, right? And so, and it's hard because for some people, if they don't directly feel it, then they don't see a benefit, right? I mean, if it's not particularly earmarked for Keith, then what has he done for me? Well, that's not how you started it off with democracy. That's not how democracy works. That's not how government works. And then you begin. I'm sorry.
When I opened up my laptop and then this article came up with DeSantis in Florida, how could they have some kind of bill or something they wrote to pay Trump's legal fee? And he squashed it.
Well,
how do you put something? How do you ask people a whole state to pay your legal fee?
Well, I think that's another reason why he's running for president. One, I think he knows at some point he could be looking at some jail time. I think the other piece of it is, as long as he's running for president, he can fundraise. So he fundraises, and who's paying his legal bills? The campaign. So, there are people out there who
keep paying his I mean, what are we doing?
Well, I'm just saying that's how but the dude has always been a grifter. He's always been a hustler. I mean, here's a dude who will steal from disabled veterans. Now, for a lot of us, the whole character issue has already been decided. But it's amazing when people see in their self-interest how we'll look the other way when we see that it benefits us. So.
Okay, well, thank you for listening to me, but we have a lot to contemplate. We're sending our kids off to college, and some of them are making some very dumb decisions.
That's that period of life where you do that. I'm just sorry. I mean, it is. I mean, is that your mind ain't fully formed?
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it does. Sure, it does.
You think so?
Maturity. Yeah. I mean, I made some choices at 21. I did not make it 61. Thank you, Jesus. So I'm just saying that, they're going to be. Look, here's the thing about young people. They don't have the same investment in terms of where we are materially in society, right? And so when you're talking to young people, they're talking about things because the things that affect them. For example, you can have a conversation with a young person about Social Security, but they're 21. They're looking at Social Security as something I get when I retire. That's 40 years from now. They ain't 40 years ahead. They're dealing with 21. But as you get older, You know, I said this in church a couple of Sundays ago. Who's talking about going to heaven? Old people. Young people ain't talking about going to heaven. Heaven ain't even on their radar at this point, because they don't feel like they're close to death.
No one does. But you can go have surgery. You can walk across the street. You could be in a store. You could be in church and get shot.
You can be, but what I'm saying is that when you hear people talking about the end times, chances are they're older people. Younger people have a little bit more in their minds to look forward to, and so that ain't a thing. Even though young people are dying, you know.
But look at the job market. Look at the job market and look at what's going on.
Okay.
Is it that many jobs out there? Are they paying that? The professors got these students food that they're going to be making six figures, and it's not happening. Some of them are getting out with these masters and these degrees, and they're getting entry-level jobs.
Well, big sister, they're going to be making six figures because fruits and vegetables going to cost four figures. I just went to the store and told my 7-year-old cousin, dude, you're going to have to get a job to get groceries, a degree to get groceries. This is crazy.
We dealt with one of the byproducts of that stimulus package that we put out there, you know, that everybody in America really benefited from, was the fact that it created inflation. The other piece of it is it's an employees market, not an employers market, which means that benefits and wages are based on demand, and there's a demand for labor. And America's getting older. So, I mean, there's all these things that are contributing to what would cause inflation. The price of things goes on. We're dealing with, I still don't know, because Keon pointed this out, the cost of chicken wings dropped dramatically. People still try charging you COVID prices, though, aren't they? Right?
Yeah.
So that contributes to inflation. I mean, that you increase, you know, the cost, right? More people with money. That's why you heard the Federal Reserve saying that they need to wring it out. I hadn't heard this since 1980 when they went in and began to tighten up credit, and the interest rates, I think at one point in the early 80s was like 16%. I mean, it was, that was all trying to bring down inflation, which is one of those real kind of contradictory things when it comes to the economy. More money brings down the value of money, right? So if you can kind of bring it down where money loses a certain value, the dollar will go up in terms of value. And so, but we're still dealing with, but the inflation rate has dropped dramatically from what it was. I think at one point we're at 9%. It's down to about 2% now. But you know, when you go into the store, there is sticker shock. I mean, you go in the store like, what did I spend money on?
Keith, go down the aisle and look at the prices. Those canned goods. Almost $4 or $2 or $3 when you were paying 89 cents before. You're paying $2.89.
Right.
I cannot believe what they're doing. And some of the local grocery stores, it's a shame. And they're going to lose customers because people are sacrificing.
No, they won't. No, they won't, because people got to eat.
No, you know what's actually happening?
Well, what I'm thinking, I can say.
Caller, it is happening though, because I do a food pantry, and in the food banks, the food is being left on the shelf. So now more food is going to the pantry before the expiration dates. You know, so it is happening. They're leaving food because folks can't afford it.
And I think it's a travesty. And then getting on. What's saying is when you give this, when they give this food to the food banks, they get a write-off.
Yeah, as well they should.
Spoiled food to those people, rotten fruit.
Well, no.
Stuff that's way over the date. Look at it very carefully. And I made it aware to people. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't know it, do not use bent cans. If those cans have been bent in any kind of way, it could cause you a serious health problem if that vacuum has been tampered with. Okay, have a good day.
I don't know. Not all places are getting rotten food, but you do do check your dates, because I'm gonna tell you, we got cases of lobsters, ribs, and I think in a lot of these places, a lot of food has to be taken out of the stores like 2 months before the sell by date. A lot of them, and even a lot of the restaurants can't serve food from yesterday. So.
But sell by date is different than use by date.
Yeah, they got freeze by dates,
right.
But still, a lot of that stuff has to get out of the stores.
Oh yeah, they're moving
before.
But you see the same thing in clothing. You know, it's just like they're getting ready to move, and the supply chain is still moving the same volume. But you're right. If people are saying, "Look, I need to forego a can of this because I can't afford it," it sits on the shelf. But the one thing they can't do, and you haven't heard of anybody getting sick, somebody can tell me, getting food from the food pantry. This has everything to do with sell by, use by dates. Someone told me something one time, I did not believe it, but her father was a butcher, so I had to believe it. She was saying, you know, a lot of times when the meat gets brown, people don't want to use it. She says, unless the meat is stinking, the meat is still good. You know, so because we look at it cosmetically and go, oh man, that must be bad.
Just
meat.
like bruised fruit, they had the commercial where bruised fruit, the bruise is bad, the fruit is still good.
Still good.
But I'm going to tell you, so my particular food bank that we utilize just for more ministry, you know, their mission and their mission statement is saving food to fight hunger. There, point blank. But another thing is when we're out in the pantry, sometimes I'm the pantry. The village group does the pantry. So we've thrown food away. And people will be like, what the hell are you doing? Because you got to remember, in some of these neighborhoods, our garbage just get rumbled through at night. You know, so it's some folks where it's not, I mean, for real, think about grandma, you throw that away. That ain't bad, Granny. Don't put that back in the freezer. Because she from Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? It was different. So a lot of times what you see ain't always what it is. And there's some folks that are more shaped than you sometimes.
Oh, and I don't want
I've almost got attacked for throwing away outdated food. Like, hold on, man, that ain't bad. Like, dude, the date.
I don't want to imply that we're not dealing with food insecurity. We really are. That didn't change because even prior to COVID, you know, people were dealing with it. And then when people got the additional money, they were still dealing with a certain level of food insecurity. So, okay. Caller, welcome to the program.
Well, good morning. First thing I want to say, I don't care who you are or wherever you are in life, live your life for you. That's it. No entity, no higher or lower power. Live your life for you. Because only you can dictate where you need to go. And that's another problem. See, sometimes we get so caught up trying to live for this or that. You live for you. Because can't nobody tell you how you supposed to feel. So moving on, even though we are 13% still equals millions across the United States. But one thing we have to understand, when it comes to people bringing up Trump says, well, he doesn't care what you think. He doesn't do slave talk. He plays the win. Unfortunately, in 2024, a lot of our people still care what other people think. And that works with that psychological warfare. Because if you worried about what other people think, you might vote a certain way. Other people who know you still worry about what they think will see that as a weakness to come down even harder. So if you're looking for a group of people like the youth to, you know, maybe back you or want to understand where you come from, why would they say, well, I want to follow them if you still worried about what other people think? But here's the kicker. When some people get that Tito's vodka and that Seagram's Extra Dry, I tell you off gin in their system, they don't care about what everybody thinks. Let's not forget about the Corbel, Parmesan, VSOP, and even that Everclear. Now everybody's skin is thick as rawhide, and now everybody is more tougher than some of them rib tips from them downtown restaurants in 12th and Walnut. I just want to let you know, when these people say what they say, they're not calling you the next day after that hangover wear off and say, I'm sorry. They stand on it. And what black people need to do, and I'm proud to be black, y'all need to say what's in your heart and stop worrying about what people think. Why you see how everybody says, oh, I'm Donald Trump. He says what he wants. He says what he thinks. He don't care. So I don't understand when it comes to some of us in 2024, y'all still worrying about what some people think. But you don't worry about what somebody else look like you think because you will tell them off in a heartbeat. But when it comes to another person who's going to tell you what they think without no chemical and no liquid courage, it seems like sometimes some of y'all respect that and y'all have next to 1 or 2 words to say and you don't hear all that mouth. So when you start taking that thing, I'm going to let me tell you something blankety blank, and you start doing it that you do with your own, and you start putting out here in the world, then that youth gonna be like, yeah, I like the way they talk because that's a warrior like that. Like some of your grandparents, when you call grandma and they know grandma coming, she's gonna give it to you. She don't care. And that's the problem we have in our community. We care so much about what other people think, but when somebody else say it, who's a different color, and us, oh yeah, that's yeah, they big and bad. But y'all been saying that to each other all the whole time. So why y'all not take that and say it to the people who don't have to say I'm sorry after that hangover? And when black people start doing that, maybe the voting will change. Maybe the youth will be like, yeah, I'm going to go stand next to that crazy uncle over there who speaks from his heart and he's going to tell you like it is. That's what we've been missing. But for some reason, we keep worrying about what other people think. And that's what's messing us up. And before I go, focus on living. Because if you come to me talking about death and talking about me getting to heaven, I'm going to tell you that's for your Sunday. I'm focused on living. I want you to tell me all the great things you're going to do now. I want to hear about your heaven you're going to get now. I want to hear about your mansion you're going to get now. Not the mansion you paying for when you go to that guy on Sunday and he going home with his cathedral ceilings, his Rolls Royces, and Maybachs. I want to hear about your heaven now and how you going to live now. I don't want to hear about you living for death. All right, some of our ancestors already did that and they still didn't get what they want. I want you to get it now. So let's change this and hit the reset button. Y'all have a good Monday.
All right, appreciate you. Caller, welcome to the program. Turn your radio down, please.
Yeah, I just turned it down, man. Hey, listen, you were talking earlier. I couldn't chime in. It was about the Baptist. I was going to comment on that, but you've been going so fast, so fast, till I probably would lose the people that just tuned into you. But listen, I'm not into trying to teach old dogs new tricks. I'm trying to teach young pit bulls how to grab and shake these folks out of these people as hard as they can. I'm not interested in teaching old dogs new tricks. They've been set in their ways. And, you know, when I hear people talking about the candidates that are running, we don't even know if Donald Trump don't even be the candidate because anything can happen. If this Haley lady, she don't bail out, might some kind of way pick up some momentum and it beat him out in the primary. So it's not guaranteed just because we see the caucuses go on. You know, but I will say this right here. If I lined up, and I have did this, I've sat down and I wrote down all the racist things Joe Biden has did. Then I wrote down all the racist things that we can prove that Donald Trump did.
Wait a minute. Ho.
No.
Wait a minute. No.
Okay, you let somebody just get through ranting and raving. I don't even know what dude.
No, I just want you to. I'm only catching you now, so it won't pass us here. You just accepted that when you wrote your list for Biden, it was all proven. You even say that what was proven, but for Trump, you said what was proven. So it seems to me that there's two different standards there, and I understand that because you're a Trump guy. But I'm just saying
no. I'm anybody's guy that I feel is best for our people. Look, man, I voted for Maylin Mitchell against Walker when Walker was doing some things, not about the Act 10. It was some other things that I disagreed with Walker on. Okay, I've supported Lena Taylor, both her runs for mayor. I mean, I got out and brought people to the polls. I drove people to the polls.
That's not the point I'm making. I'm just
saying. Let me explain something to you. Hold on.
Just be objective when you write down. Just be objective.
I'm for the people, man.
Okay.
I'm for whatever. And I think Lena going to be the judge, and they probably listening. I don't care. I think it was the wrong move for her to do. She's too much a people's person. She liked to be with the people. When you become a judge, you got to surrender all of that. I think it was a move on the Democrats' behalf, and she bid on it, and that's going to splash water on the fire that she had. And who knows, the devil set up a scandal or anything. She's been better off fooling around at that doggone alderman's level because she's that kind of lady. She's that kind of person. She's out. She's hands-on. She's like a mama. She's going to be out there. She's going to try to fit the need of the people. And to be put behind a judgeship draws a different light on you. So I don't know. I wish her well, but I think it was a bad move sort of like they moved Shante Hamilton from his office seat and gave him that little job, unless it was a reason that we don't know about. Took him out of that, and that put his file. I mean, let's be realistic. There was a movement here, and this is going a whole different ballgame. I'm sounding like one of the last callers, man. Look, I'm going everywhere. But check this out. It's sort of like when we had the movement of George Floyd. We had a powerful movement in the city of Milwaukee. Very powerful, radical, young folks, young pit bulls. Check this here out. You know what they did? They called the leaders of that and said, hey, I think the best thing for you to do, take this show all the way to Washington. All your radicals went to Washington. Now the people's thing, the people, Khalid and them, they stayed around, but they wasn't the real radical bunch. They sent them boys out to D.C. and that killed the movement, man. They killed the movement, which left a bunch of white folk and the people, whatever Khalid Coleman's deal was, they left a bunch of white folk and some black folk to carry the ball, but it quickly died out. They got a way of putting white folk in power and black folk to sit behind them, but mostly white folk, of canceling a situation by simply offering you something that looks good. Like Lot said, I believe I'm going to cash my tent towards Sodom. The grass looked greener towards Sodom. The next time we heard from the dude, Keith, he was over in Sodom, okay? He said, Abraham went on his way. Hey, man, look, is that the music?
Yeah, man, it's music.
Hey, look, man, and you know what? When these people call in, they just all over the place with no substance. I don't know how you deal with it, man. You got tough skin, brother. But I love you like a big brother, and I'm out, man.
You're listening to Community Voice. The phone lines are open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. He was in 8 different backyards. I think that's all. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Yeah, I was listening to that bass line. Welcome back to Community Voice. Phone lines open 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. I gotta stop saying come on, man. Let's do some real. I was at a homegoing service for Brother Wilson Gill on Saturday, and a great man. It when people are, you kind of think that people are gonna die. It's a little bit different when people die suddenly and you weren't expecting it. And his death really was unexpected, and great tribute to a great man. But one of the things that was very interesting was his son came up and did an excellent tribute. And his son had this incredible bass. Man, this voice was, oh man. But then his son's son got up, and he had the same thing. And I made the comment, the same voice, and I said, "Man, I'd love to have those pipes on radio." I mean, the kid looked like he was about 19, 20, but he just had this deep, resonating voice. And so I had to give him his shout out. So anyway, you got a caller. Welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. No. All right. Just for Bucks fans, tonight will be Doc Rivers' first game officially as the Bucks' new head coach. But boy, you talking about, it would have been great maybe to be the first game against Detroit, but they didn't get Detroit. they got Denver at Denver. So that should be interesting to see what's going forward. I don't know if what ails the Bucks can be fixed by the playoffs. We'll have to see. But Doc Rivers tonight, 8:00 in Denver tonight. So he joked at the press conference. He said that, man, I should have waited till the All-Star break, because the Bucks had been playing the weakest schedule in the NBA. The Bucks had prior to this. Now their schedule gets more difficult, and so hopefully they'll be able to right the areas that are deficient right now. I mean, I don't know if they're going to get another player by the All-Star break. So it'd be interesting. So I know a lot of people will be watching the game tonight to see whether or not Doc Rivers will win his first game tonight. Oh, by the way, Detroit won this weekend. 5 games. They beat the Raptors. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, what's happening, Keith?
What's happening?
Yeah, I'm glad you said what you just said. As far as the Bucks have had the easiest schedule in the league. So like I told people over and over, a 30-13 record that Adrian Griffin had was very misleading. And as you mentioned, the Bucks have the toughest stretch for the rest of the way. Also Doc Rivers made a great point during his presser on Saturday. He mentioned that there are only like 4 practices remaining in the season. Right. And a lot of people assume that when the team isn't playing, they're practicing. It's not true.
They're traveling.
Yeah, they're traveling. I mean, they have shoot-arounds and mornings and games, and if not that, it's film sessions. So you'll have a practice in there if you maybe have 3 days off. But there is not much practice time. So like Doc said, you can't really change too much. I mean, you can tweak, and you can better manage. Make better decisions coaching during the game. Maybe tweak the rotation, but I don't think we're going to see much of a difference. I think from a defensive standpoint with the Bucks, I think it's an effort thing. I think they lost faith in Adrian Griffin. I think they like Adrian Griffin, and I think the human brain says if you're working for somebody you don't like, you're not going to give maximum output, and that doesn't apply to everybody, but it applies to a lot of folks, especially when you're being paid more than your coach.
It's easier to fire a coach than it is a player in the NBA.
For sure. So I do think the Bucks will get better under Doc, and there's a lot of people saying that Doc's a failure. You know, he's lost. Listen, man.
Haters out there, man.
I'm getting so sick of hearing that. One thing I will say, Giannis, Chris, Dame, Brooke, none of them dudes play for Doc with the Clippers. And, you know, who was the leader of that Clippers team? Chris Paul. We cannot ignore the fact that Chris Paul has failed over and over. And if you have a leader on the court that continues to fail and fold under the big moments, I mean, the coach's job is to get you in position to win and succeed. But the players have to follow with that as well. And I think that people are overlooking the fact that maybe those players with the Clippers they weren't those dudes. So listen, man.
And did he have the year that the Clippers probably could have went real deep in the playoffs? Wasn't it Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul that got hurt in the same game? I'm trying to think.
They got hurt.
Yeah, they got in the same
game, but they were hurt.
Yeah, it was like, so you lose. Well, that franchise is cursed anyway. But if you look at where it is, I think he also had to deal with the Sixers with Ben Simmons and the issues that it caused for the Sixers, and he won a championship at Boston. And so, I mean, there are not a lot of coaches out there with rings. So if nothing else, I think he's going to be a great coach. It will be, but I agree with you. It is the players that play. And, you know, we want to blame the coaches, but when it's effort, here's the other thing. The Bucks have to hit their shots. If you're not going to play defense, you better hit your shots.
Well, there was Adrian Griffin, again, obviously he knows way more than we know when it comes to basketball and coaching. Maybe not. Because he was looking confused very often. But one thing I will say, it came out that Brooke Lopez, they changed a lot of. So this is the thing, like people be like, man, why is Brooke Lopez? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? This is not pickup basketball. A coach has a system and the players play within the system. So one thing on defense, Adrian Griffin changed the way that Brooke Lopez was being used.
Right.
And they were saying that was frustrating Brooke on defense. You're frustrated on defense, you're frustrated on offense too. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of the things that were wrong, Doc will come in here and tweak. The morale will be boosted. The effort will be higher. And listen, man, I'm just so sick and tired of people hating on Doc Rivers. And there are a lot of people out there that are so-called Bucks fans that are waiting for the Bucks to fail so they can say, I told you so, which is unfortunate. If they lose tonight, people will be saying that.
Yeah, but they play in Denver.
I told you so.
It's not like they played Detroit tonight. They play in Denver. You know, I think first of all, I think because they play in Denver, you're going to see a different effort, right? I mean, it is. Right. But, I mean, they struggled against Detroit, and Detroit's best player wasn't even playing. Now, that's effort.
Right.
That's effort because they should have never struggled with the Pacers. No disrespect to the Pacers. I mean, there's some teams out there that now Orlando's gotten stronger. But I'm just saying, no, man, you can't. And then they went up and they can. Then they beat the Knicks back to back when they did the back to back in New York, right? I'm trying to think on that. Yeah, so they can play good basketball. They have to be consistent in the good basketball. They had a period, that second Detroit game, the last 5 minutes of the game, where you look at this team and say, if they play like this all the time, you can't beat them. The defense was strong. They moved the ball offensively. They're hitting shots. Here's the other piece of it. That Damian Lillard trade changed expectations, right? So when you had Charles Barkley and everybody talking about, oh, man, Milwaukee's in the NBA Finals. And then as Bucks fans, we picked up on that. We going to the finals. Wait a minute, man. No. It took that Miami team 2 years, a year and a half, just to adjust to Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James, right? And it took them, and I think they lost in the finals that year, and then they won the next year, right? So, yeah, so the expectations that we have, and then look, Bucks fans are spoiled like Green Bay Packer fans. We've been winning. So when you win a championship, people, they expect the championship every year. Right. And let me say this. Budenholzer had to go because Budenholzer, he was the coach, cost the Bucks a whole lot of money. To be swept in the first round, your money is going deeper and deeper into the playoffs. That's where you're making your money, right? And they lost money last year.
sometimes it's just time to go, and that's okay.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
You know what I mean? Like it and that's okay, man. Budenholzer, like I like Mike. You know what I mean? I think I during that Brooklyn game in 21, I was ready to fire him then, but he bought himself some time with winning, and hey, it was time for him to go.
Where's Bobby?
Man.
Why is he playing Bobby? Where's Bobby? Yeah.
If DJ was here, DJ would, I know some people say it was matchup. Listen, man, in my opinion, if you have a player like Bobby Portis, you can find some type of role for him, but to play 0 minutes, to not even take your pants off and go on the court,
right?
Nah, man.
But then he used him after that series, so he came to his right.
Correct, and that helped us win it. Yep. So, all right, man.
Appreciate you. Caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning to you, Mr. Parris.
Good morning.
Assalamualaikum, and thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, how about them Bucks?
I did the Bucks and the Packers, and along with that, all in all, if you look at it like thread, if you take the needle and stitch it through each situation, like with the black quarterback, black head coach, or second black head coach coming in over the Bucks, who actually played college ball here. Lena Taylor being elevated or moving from one position of authority to another. And then you get people like that guy from the Urinal Sentinel who goes on the attack about someone's qualifications, who has proven over 2 decades that they are fully capable, who before they even became a legislator, they were a lawyer. So they understand litigation and how to argue those things. And I think in most cases, people who become judges were once lawyers, or they were on that trajectory somehow or some way. So it's pretty much more of the same when it comes to what we experience. You aren't as good as you might think you are, and you will never be as best as you would like us, meaning them, to consider you as. Intelligence is always held in the balance when it comes to Black people and what's done to us. So when we hear these people, these negative people who are naturally opposed to your advancement, to your elevation, I think the scripture says something about rejoicing. If those people who think that that these impediments have not been purposely set in place to make us depreciate and devalue our intelligence and to question it. And then we have our very own people who embrace stupidity or ignorance or the lack of knowledge, and who seek to promote that, and who seek to even project or even attempt to make themselves leaders before us, as if. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that. And let me say this, in spite of Dan Bice, that's Dan Bice. That's his opinion. I don't think based on, sometimes people say things and just Keith, I don't think you need to respond, because one, is not going to change what's going to happen. Two, Lena's qualifications for her to be a judge is without question for people. Obviously, it wasn't a detriment in terms of the governor making the appointment. So, we can get in sometimes, and it becomes a circular argument. People have their opinions on why people are doing what they're doing. I would just suggest to Mr. Bice that he be consistent in that, because anytime a person leaves one position, go to another position, it could be more money. And it's not necessarily that money is the motivator. It is just because of the level of responsibility of that job, you get paid more money. I think being a judge There's an incredible level of responsibility that you have because decisions you make impacts lives. So, I mean, the fact that, you know, he basically did a hit job on Lena, it doesn't change the results. And so we'll see. Phone lines open, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Milwaukee. Hello, Milwaukee. Can you tell me why did
Miss Stacey Abrams?
This is she. I am very excited to be talking to you.
Mr. Troy Baker?
First and foremost, I'd say it's a personal thing. Quit tripping. Go vote.
Mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot.
I am with you. Good morning.
Choose WNOV 860 AM 106.5 FM to talk to you. They knew that WNOV is the voice of the Milwaukee community. But did you also know that
Harold Mosley.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
The Honorable Congressman G.K. Butterfield.
WNOV, thank you for your sensitivity and your willingness to educate our community.
Donna Brazile
wanted to get their message to you, and they knew WNOV was the only station to use to get to the Milwaukee community.
Political parties are vehicles. You can choose to drive them or you can choose to walk, but you better not get on the road and don't know where you're going. We're not asking anybody to get away from the table. Just give me a chair so I can sit.
So what are you waiting for?
This is Martina Colin-Graves, President and CEO with Mental Health America Wisconsin. I want to take a moment to remind you that your mental health matters. This time of year can be stressful, but we have programs and services committed to supporting our community. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping adults and kids live mentally healthier lives. We offer online screenings, outpatient therapy, and a peer-run warm line for support day and night. Call us today
Welcome back to Community Voice. And again, the phone lines are open 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Lena being elevated to the judiciary, I think we benefit from, and I just from what I've been able to see, that we have a strong bench. What I mean by strong bench is that there are people who are more than capable to be able to step in and to serve that district. People will have to adjust stylistically, but it's the substance that matters more than style. And so, that, like I said, there's just some great young political talent in the city. And so that if she's stepping away, I do know that there are people who you'll never be able to fill that person's shoes. I mean, they got their own size, but you still can be as effective in terms of being able to serve that community. So we'll see what's happening going forward. I'd like to know when they're doing the special election. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning.
Good morning, Keith.
How are you?
I'm fine. This is Annette.
Oh, hey. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
All right. Hi, Kiana.
Hey, Annette.
I'm so blessed to hear both of my beautiful black brothers, Nubian brothers in the house.
Ashe.
Well, me and that one over there. Ashe. Yeah.
I got one. And he's in there. He had to make the bed this morning.
I'm gonna get you a shirt, man.
I know that one over there. That one over there. Just for the listeners don't know, that's how my mother would refer to me when she got frustrated with me. She would call me by the name she gave me. It was that one over there. So
yeah. Yes, sir. Listen, this is my take on what I hear through the elections, past and present. I'm getting this feeling that brothers, and mostly not all brothers, but some brothers, and that they look at Stacey starting with Stacey Abrams, and she went up against that no good person down there in Georgia. Was it
Governor
Georgia?
Kemp.
Yes.
Yep, Governor
Yeah,
Kemp.
him. Those brothers did not want to deal with Stacey Abrams in regard with all her the way she really helped the black community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you fast forward women, black African American women, they don't want to back us up. Why? The question is why? You got Ice Cube, whatever, whoever. What is it about you came from a black woman? Your ancestors fought to get you free, Harriet Tubman, aka Harriet Tubman, and then some. And then you still want to turn your back on a beautiful woman, Lena Taylor, which she can walk in. She said, "Hey, it's Lena." Walk in the house. I said, "Hey, Lena." She said, "You got some water?" I said, "The refrigerator right there. Open the door. Give her some water." She that's how she was with me. And the thing is that when I hear the Brother Meach, I hope you hear him. You need to support your sisters.
He did. Well, let's be fair to Meach. He voted for Lena twice.
Okay,
he supports
that's
Lena
cool.
all kind of ways.
Right. So.
All right, that's cool. All right, if you voted for it twice, I'll give you your kudos.
All he was saying was that, I guess he was sore because he gonna miss her being who she is and where she is, which a lot of people are. Because now she can't play in the field the way she always has. She can't help us with automatic issues and city issues and state issues the way she did. She got it. That's kind of what he was saying.
Okay, but you know what? That's life. We move on. And if we are not grown enough to understand that, then you need to just move on. But my question is, are our brothers leaving us and not coming together as as people, as African American people together, not that to pull that 13%. 13%, I say there's more of us out there.
But you know, but it's interesting you say that, because you point out Stacey Abrams, maybe that could have been the difference in her race down in, certainly the second race against Kemp down in Georgia. I think, and I guess there's a conversation that we need to have, is there is tension between some black men and some black women. And to act as if that tension is not there, because there's tension between white men and white women. Nikki Haley did something, and you got to pay attention, because you're into things and people don't, we just kind of watch it, dismiss it. But she said something. She said a vote for Joe Biden is a vote for Kamala Harris. She said it 3 times in this particular speech. That's a dog whistle. Now, the irony is they're both of Indian descent, right? They're both of Indian descent, but she knows in certain quarters there are men, white men, who will not vote for a black woman. There are black men who are troubled with the idea of voting for a black woman. I mean, that's real. And so when, for whatever reasons, there is, like I said, tension there. When you look at the fact now that black women in some ways are moving ahead of black men when it comes to education, when it comes to certain material things, that can cause tension for certain folks. And and it was interesting because we ran the promo about the conversations we have during the political season, and one of the most impressive people I've ever met it was Stacey Abrams, right? I mean, I don't know how you couldn't vote for her just based on not only her presentation, her accomplishments in life, right? But I'm telling you, like we were talking about earlier, there are black women who do not see themselves sitting, I shouldn't say sitting under, or having a black female or having a female pastor. There are a lot of black women who feel very strongly about that. So it was something that Meacha kind of started off saying, yeah, the dog needs to learn some new tricks. And just because you're old, don't dismiss the fact that you need to learn some new tricks. And I say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You sure can if the dog is willing to learn the new tricks. And the dog is aware that I need to change either my thinking, how I view the world, because maybe some ways I was thinking was wrong. Maybe some of the things I was taught was wrong. It was well-meaning, and maybe it made sense when it was taught, but now we look at different times saying, no, I don't. Well, here's one from the South. I don't know if that dog is going to hunt. As we continue our dog metaphor.
Thing, and I'm going to let you go. I was going to say what we learned in church yesterday. Our eyes need to be open. And if our eyes are closed right now, as African American, as whoever we are, we got to start from our young people on. See, I'm going to go see how I can get registered, get deputized to register people to vote. Because I got to, Keith. I have to. Because this is no joke right now. And I love Milwaukee because they helped me at age 20 become a woman. It's my job to help my young people if they're willing. I got a sign in my hallway saying, I am a woman and I vote. And I'm going to work at every place I can. Go park my car. You ready? You register to vote? You register to vote? And I'm going to do this.
And I'm going to tell you,
duty.
Real talk, it troubles me sometimes when, and here's why I'm troubled. Not that the person is doing it, because the person is right on point, but it troubles me when Michelle might ask, what's up with the breaths? Because she's asking a very important question. Now, I know that there's some people, now me and Keon, we're supposed to walk sideways on the beach because we're cancers. right? I mean, that's just our nature. But you got some folks out there, they always gonna be different, right? I mean, you know, and maybe there's sometimes you need to be different, but then sometimes, you know, we need to get with the team. And I think that, you know, that whole individuality piece, you know, it was a book that Baba Tony Courtney wrote. I killed the title of it, but I think the title of the book is, you know, Superstar Negroes on Losing Teams. For some of us, it's so important that we be different. It'd be so important that we do but the team is losing. So what do I need to do to help the team win? How do I defer some of me for the we? Well, I'm on a roll today. But yeah, I mean, and that's real talk. And so when brothers are sitting there, and look, I understand, you know, you might come to certain conclusions based on things, but sometimes people just doing stuff to be contrary. It ain't based in any substance other than their way in life. It's something I heard Pastor John McVicker said. Hopefully I'm not killing this particular quote. He says that some people have a predisposition for opposition.
Well,
his point is some of us come in the door. Some of us come in the door, no matter what you say is no. Right? I mean, you know, you ain't heard nothing. All I know is no. And so then it's like you're not hearing what you need to hear. You know, that song purposely at the end of the program, Open Our Eyes, that's purposeful.
Open up.
You know, that's purposeful because we're not just talking about our physical eyes, we're talking about our spiritual eyes, our intellectual eyes. You know, I mean, you know, maybe people think that if I walk around here with my eyes closed, I'm not going to be held responsible. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. So this idea that like an ostrich, you know, you stick your head in the ground because you think danger is going to run because you don't see it. Danger is still there. You know, so I think that's a great point in terms of sometimes we just kind of got, you know, if we're talking about the collective, because some of those same brothers gonna be talking about when we as a people. No, when you as a person will show up to vote. Now I'm not gonna tell you what they told me down the Racine. This young brother, he showed up to vote, and so when he was leaving, the sister said, "I'm not gonna ask you if you vote because I know you voted." She said, "Did you vote right?" Did you vote right? So now we kind of at this point, and here's one of the ironies about Milwaukee. Back in the 80s and early 90s, Milwaukee had the highest percentage of Black registered voters in the country.
I know.
You know, I mean, and so what's happened? Now I understand we have dudes on paper. They can't vote. But we're talking about people who ain't on paper, right?
There you go.
And so we gotta, but that's a discussion we have to have between now and November.
Out there. I had my grandbabies out there. They're like, Grandma. They teenagers now. I mean, they in their 20s and 30s. But they remember that.
Right.
I said, go to this house. And they said, Grandma, what do I do now? I said, I'll come up to the door. That's when Obama was running. I had them out there. They had hot dogs. It was a movement.
Right. And look, let's be honest, and I always say it. Everybody went down for Obama when Obama first started running.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot. Remember that T-shirt? Don't tell Mama I'm voting for Obama. I mean, there was a whole lot of because of the influence that the Clintons had in the Black community, and so right now, once it looked like he could win, just like me jumping on the Bucks bandwagon, there was a whole lot of folks who jumped on the bandwagon, right?
Well.
Which is good. I mean, I'm just saying, but when he first started running, people was talking about he was too light. He ain't really African American. We just can't pronounce his name. There's a whole lot of things. This black folks, this wasn't white folks, it's black folks. So if we open our eyes, we can get to it.
We had some of his native people here at the Hill office up there on I think I can't remember. Some of his native people came all the way from Africa and worked with us in that office.
Oh yeah, it was a big deal. I mean, to act as if Barack Obama not only being elected once, being elected twice, that's a big deal.
It was a big deal. And you know what? We're not going to lose this race. We're going to put that man in jail. He's going to jail. I have faith. I have faith, and I'm not going to lose my faith in God. God is the key. He is the Alpha and Omega. He is the beginning and the end. And I'm going to keep my eyes open. And I'm praying to my brothers and sisters at the sound of my voice. Open your eyes right now. God bless you. God bless my brothers that are at that station, and be safe. I love you with the love of Jesus Christ, where all blessings flow.
All right.
Amen.
Amen. Are we getting ready to take up the offering now?
Won't you come? Won't you please come? I got to clean up on aisle, which aisle, whatever aisle.
Aisle 2.
Aisle 2? Yeah, so I don't walk sideways on the beach, brother. I'm a king crab. I'm at the bottom on all however many legs I got. I'm sorry.
I really want to thank you for making my point. Carla, welcome to the program. I really want to thank you.
You can be the sideways walk.
Always got to be a different crab. All the other crabs are sideways on the beach.
No, they not. They king crabs, snow crabs, and then beach crabs.
We talk about the crabs
you
we
talking
are.
about the soft. No, you talking about the crab you are. Yes, sir. No. Come down here. You gonna get got.
See, I just
Carla,
welcome to the program.
I define me, not you.
Carla, welcome to
good morning.
Good morning. How are you, man? Happy New Year, bro.
Hello?
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Well, unless you're Kurt Harris.
Yeah.
Then you define me.
You know, it's interesting listening to the discussion go on about the combination of politics and human relations. But I remember in 2006, when I had the appropriate date, I had an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation with Barack Obama when he was here for a fundraiser for Rush Feingold. And my question to him was, how did he get elected in Illinois? And my memories as a child was that the train cars changed. If you were black, you had to change train cars in Cairo, Illinois.
Yes, sir.
And how did he get the Southern vote? He gave me an explanation, which turned out to be correct. But he obviously was better steeped in politics than I was, particularly at the time. He went on to run for president and win that office. So time plays a factor in almost everything that happens in the political arena. An example would be that even with Lena Taylor, she's run for a couple of other fairly good positions, mayor and county exec. She's now been appointed to a position of a judgeship, which is appropriate based on her politics and her political history. The question now is, what community will get behind her to reelect her when it comes up in less than a year?
Yeah, 2025, right?
It's a 2025, about a year from now.
Yep.
But the point being is that time plays a factor in that discussion. Another quickie, and I've been a friend of Fred Kessler's since the middle 60s, maybe late 60s. Fred Kessler is the person who drew the districts in 1972 that allowed the black community to be able to elect the state senator and 3 state representatives. He deliberately did that through a negotiation with an outstate legislator who wanted something that he wanted on the map for himself in that same redistricting. Recognizing that politics is not always straight down the line like some people may want it to be. Fred has moved around until he's retired, moved around in this community and benefited the black community tremendously. Now, part of the problem is that some folks don't know enough about the history of elected politics in Milwaukee to know how he's done those beneficial things, including that redistricting, and how people do things not because it's black and white, but because it's a matter of strategy at that given time. And so I want to try to recommend to people to pay attention to how the time factor may change things and elect people based on their qualifications for the office and or a mission they're carrying out for all the constituents in the district or the jurisdiction they're running in, and not just for a few who may have louder voices than others. So anyway, I'll stop at that point because I obviously have a lot of other things to say.
Can I make a comment too on
go ahead.
On Barack Obama? Talk about good fortune and timing. It just so happens when he was then running, the guy who was the I want to say his name was Kirk. He was the front runner in the polls. Ended up having a sex scandal, which really kind of killed his campaign. Obama benefited from that. I think Obama benefited from running against John McCain, who, talk about age, who looked old, who looked like, oh man, he's not really with it. And so that resonated with a bunch of folks where, you know, they're looking like, oh, okay, if we had him. So even the visuals were very different. And I think that's what's really concerning. Now, if it's Trump and Biden, you know, two old dudes, right? But if it's like Biden and Haley, that's a different thing. Though I do believe, and someone to talk about Stacey Abrams, I do believe that there are a lot of people, certainly white males, who do not see themselves voting for this Indian woman who's Indian and female. I think that's the same issue right now that Kamala Harris has, that the misogynism and the racism combined will make it difficult. I mean, Hillary Clinton had to deal with a certain level of misogyny where there were men who would never vote for a woman, right? And she was better qualified than the guy she was running for, but it didn't really matter for folks. Because politics, I wish, was objective, but it really is subjective, right? And
it's very subjective,
right?
And again, based on time, the time might be right or wrong at a given point in time. An example again would be how Donald Trump was able to accuse Hillary Clinton of something in 2016 that he never had to prove.
Right.
All he did was make the suggestion repeatedly to the point that people wanted to put her in jail.
Right. And that's all some people needed. They was looking for the reason.
Not wanting to put Trump in jail for things that have pretty much been proven, but not subject to election.
Mm-hmm. Because that's my guy. You know,
Yeah.
and there's a line from this song, I Can't Let Go, The Love That Grows by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It says, lovers' eyes are blessed because they only see the best, right? So when you really, really down with somebody, chances are you're going to be a little bit more or a whole lot more forgiving when it comes to their deficits because it's your guy or it's your gal.
Well, for forgiving or for other reasons, and I expressed the point about Fred Kessler. Now, I recognize that somebody at your station sees him as an old white man. But he's an old white man that has contributed significantly to the benefits of the Black community. Now, he can't change his color any more than I can change mine.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I try to take color out of the equation and see if people are doing things for humanistic reasons or for economic reasons or for other reasons that can be changed. And he's still doing some things, he and his wife, Joan, that this community is not aware of that is beneficial to the Black community. So I just want folks to know that time does play a role, and I guess it does in my case too, because at my age, I have a lot of experiences that a whole bunch of folks don't have and can tell you about elections in this community. Let me go to the guy over, the reporter who was reporting on Lena. He has historically played a role as a negative reporter.
Well, Kurt, let me do this, man. I'm up on the last. Can you hold on to after the break?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, you're listening to Community Voice. We're up on the last break of the program. We'll be right back. I just wanted to do that because the sun is shining. And again, hello, sunshine. That's the Reverend Maceo Woods. Oh man, I'm just so glad the sun is shining. Hey, Kurt, you got 2 minutes, man.
Well, 3 quick points on Dan Weiss. Dan Weiss has been the kind of columnist he is since in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He was brought to play that role, the spicier role, not the role of reporting objective news, but to be able to keep information going on people that they might want to forget. I would also suggest that as we go into February, which is Black History Month, that we look up the history of Black people in this community so that we have a better understanding of some of the battles that had to be fought. They had to fight to get to where they are. Leroy Simmons was elected in 1946 to the State Assembly. Leroy Simmons comes out of a family that has been in the Milwaukee area since 1865. Some of their family are still here, obviously. Belle Phillips, when she ran her contest and won a statewide Secretary of State election. In some part, my understanding is she won it by not having her picture printed on her literature, which at the time didn't seem unusual to most of the folks who went to the polls to vote. She won a statewide election when the Black population was probably less than 15% in this state. So it can be done. The only point I'm trying to make is there are, over time, reasons and rationalizations of things that happen that you have to know about and either change and or use depending on the benefits you can get from. So Mandela Barnes should have won the election he ran for U.S. Congress. But the Black community didn't turn out in the numbers or vote for him in the numbers that they should have voted for him to get him elected. As a matter of fact, there were some folks who sat on the sideline for reasons that I won't get into an explanation of now, but needs to be explained because they sat on the sideline when that Black man ran and should have had the entire Black community support. So politics can make the bet, strange bedfellows, as can life itself. We just have to know how to sort out what it is that can benefit us and our quote unquote community. Otherwise, we'll stay in the same dilemma we're in now, and that is chaos.
All right, man.
Thanks, Keith.
Appreciate you. Let me thank Keon Carvey. Thank you. Callers, we thank you. The good Lord willing, the creek don't rise. We hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.